All right, guys, just pulled in the dooryard, came in the house, came in from work, and wanted to share with you some information that's coming from Fish and Game. These are proposals for both the biennial season rules and the 10-year big game management plan. Now, keep in mind, these are proposals. These are not dyed in the wool yet. They're still going through the checks and balances of the big government to see what's going to happen with them. But these are exciting because hopefully a lot of these come to fruition. So I'm going to tell you what the proposal is, and you guys can just wait and see what happens, I guess, because that's how government works, slow and steady. All right, so we're going to start with the biennial season proposals. Now, I went through all of these on the podcast, Granite State Woodsman podcast. We're having a little issue getting that up. So I thought I'd jump on here and get these out to you quickly because there's a reason, and we'll get into that in a minute. But we'll start with the biennial season proposals. These are the rules that would be, if they're passed, come in 2025, most of them. Now, the comments are closed for these, so you don't need to email any comments about these rules because that's closed. They've gone through that process. So let's start with everybody's favorite, the white-tailed deer. Right here is probably one of the biggest proposals in this whole stack of stuff I have, one of the big ones. So it says here, they're proposing to have crossbows open for all during archery season. Now, that will be in all WMUs except for A1 and 2, B, C1 and 2, D1, D2E, and E1, 2, 3, and F. Those you will not be able to use a crossbow if they so propose make that pass. So that's kind of exciting for those of you who like to use crossbows, who've been hoping for this for a while. So let's see how that turns out. Now, bucks only in these WMUs this year, 2025 proposed. A, B, C1, C2, and D1. They removed D2E from that existing list. So they'll have doe days in D2E if the proposal comes to fruition. The other thing that they've done, they've changed the number of any deer days in most of the WMUs. And most of them got more doe days added to that. So that's kind of exciting, especially in areas that have really high deer numbers to help knock that down. We'll see how that turns out. All right, now here's one. This covers deer, bear, turkey, and fur bearer. So you know how now when you shoot a turkey, you don't get the metal tag. You have to keep that little card with you. So it says you must keep your registration number either written on your license or kept with your hunting license. You can't just throw it in your visor, your truck, and then go and do your thing. You got to keep that with you at all times. They've also added more L antlerless permits. So some of you I know are against it, some of you for it, but like I said, this is a proposal. Let's see how it turns out. All right, here's another big one that's coming up that they've proposed. They've proposed a new weapon to hunt big game with, all right? They're air rifles for big game. So let's see, deer and bear, you need a 35 caliber or larger, at least 400 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. That's the type of air gun you need to hunt for deer and bear. They're going to allow it for moose also. And with the moose, it has to be 45 caliber or larger and have at least 400 foot-pounds of energy at the muzzle. All right, that's another proposal that they're putting in. They've done a lot of testing on that. They've gone through a lot of different science and everything to see if this was viable, and they found that it was. So next, bear. So this is something that should be common sense, but they had to put it in here just because, the Darwin Awards. Bear, you must register your first bear before taking the second if you have a second tag. You can't just have one bear tag and shoot two bears. Just Just keep that in mind. You need to buy that second tag. And then you shoot one bear, you register it, and then you shoot the second. You can't shoot them both at the same time. All right? That's just the way it is. All right, now here's one that, this is another big one. And it makes sense in the science end of it, to make sure we can keep track of the kill rate here. So, fur bears, including coyote. Any fur bear taken by hunting, not trapping, by hunting, must be registered online within 24 hours. So if you shoot a coyote, you need to register it with Fish and Game in 24 hours. And the reason for this is so they can keep track of how many coyotes are killed in a season, what time of year they're being killed the most. Any of that information can be used to help them manage the populations in case there's an area with a ton of them. They can deal with this more efficiently than they have been in the past, whereas it's an open season. People can shoot them, and that's it. They want to know how many are being shot. There's some reasons for this, and I'm not going to get into them to keep the peace, but it's a good idea, and I agree with it 100%. So, next. Pertaining to youth, they're removing the reciprocity requirement for any youth, regardless of the state of residence. They can now participate accompanied by a licensed adult. The reason they did this was they want to see more youth participating in the sport of hunting, getting them out there. And this primarily has to do with Massachusetts, I believe, where they did not have a reciprocity. I can't even say the dang word. They didn't allow New Hampshire residents to take their kids and have a youth hunt in Massachusetts. But so what the law used to be is the state had to have reciprocity with our state with different sports for them to be able to participate here. So now they're going to be able to participate in our youth season. And they're talking about adding a youth pheasant season. All right, so that covers the biennial stuff. Now we get into the big elephant in the room, the 10-year big game management plan. Now, before we get into any of this is something I need to say. This is primarily the whole purpose for this video. We need to write in about this 10-year big game management plan to Fish and Game to support them on these changes. Our friends on the other side of the aisle here, our friends who don't want us getting nice, healthy meat that doesn't have a bunch of chemicals in it. You know what I'm saying? Hunting. They don't want us hunting. What we're going to do is we need to write in, because what they're doing is they're sending in form letters. They're sending in all kinds of letters saying they don't want us hunting. They don't want this. They don't want that. And they have more letters coming in than we have responses to this. This is how they beat us every time, is they're very, very organized, and they come at the Fish and Game department like a tidal wave with all these negative comments. We need to up our game and start emailing Fish and Game with our comments that are positive and telling them that they're doing a good job and what we agree with. And if you don't agree with something, write that in there too and why you do, but always end it positively and say that you think they're doing a good job either way. They need our support. Believe it or not, they are helping us out. They're doing a good damn job about it too. And you'll find out now when I read this. So, you can find the big game management plan by going to the Fish and Game website. Click hunting. You scroll down to the big game plan and you click the green bar and it says draft of big game management plan. Check that out, read it. Something in there you disagree with, send them an email. Tell them what you liked or didn't like about it. All right? Accepting emails until April 25th. Get this done now. Just go to now. When you see this, go to the management plan, read it, make a comment tonight or tomorrow before the 25th. All right? So you can email that at comments at wildlife.newhampshire.gov. All right, I'll say that again. I'll say it slower for you, though, for those who are slower than that. Comments at wildlife.newhampshire or nh.gov. All right? Please write, even if it's just to say, I agree with these proposals. Positive is good. As the people who are against us, I'm reading this right off this page so I don't get in trouble, as those against hunting are writing in force. We need to overwhelm them. Show them that we are the silent majority. We actually are more than they are. Believe it or not. You can add any comments you wish, but please support the moose plan, as it is what we need in the state to turn the moose herd around and make it healthier. Not maybe bigger, but healthier. Healthier means bigger body mass, bigger weights, bigger racks, and healthier offspring. All right? That's what we need. So, here we go. We're going to start with deer, and I am going to put my glasses back on. Deer. All of these, there's a bunch of units here that are above goal. I could get into them, but it's pretty much everyone except for A, B, C1, C2, D1, and I2. Those are below goal. Everything else is above goal, which is good and bad. All right? It's good for you guys who are hunting because you see deer. It's bad for the environment because they're eating everything out there, and it's not good for them health-wise. Let's see. In H2, they are lowering the population goal due to the start of overbrowsing. So they're having all kinds of overbrowsing problems, meaning everything from 4 feet and down is getting eaten, and there's not enough food for the deer. So if they can lower the actual goal that they've had for 10 years down, it'll allow more opportunities to take these animals, so take them out of the environment to put less stress on their browsing. All right? Now, they're also considering ways to estimate hunter effort at the WMU level instead of the state level, which is great because it shows what WMUs are getting the most pressure. All right? And it shows areas that may show that they have a higher content of deer but less hunters. There's all kinds of different ways that this can be used, and I think it's going to be used for the better. So they also want to work with towns that have locally excessive densities to enroll them into a DMAP program. A DMAP program is the Deer Management Assistance, and that gives out extra antlerless tags. So if you have a town that has an overabundance of does that are eating every flower in the neighborhood and it's just running rampant, kind of like what we have up here in Hanover, Lyme, they have a DMAP program where you can go in and take does out of the system, and that doesn't affect your other tags. So it's kind of a lottery system with the way they do it up here. So let's keep an eye on that and see how that goes. Remember, these are proposals. These are not laws yet or rules. These are proposals. So, and it all is going to depend on your input. A lot of it anyways. All right. One of the things that I'm kind of on the fence with, but we'll see how this goes, is to develop a CWD response plan. So look, if you want the skinny on CWD, I'm not going to get into my feelings here because I can go really deep into a rabbit hole. All I'm going to tell you is, and I think all of you, anybody out there who's interested in deer and deer hunting and what CWD really means, I need you to go to Deer and Deer Hunting YouTube channel, right? And there's one of their videos. It's called Nature Will Fix CWD. And it has in it is Dr. Christopher Seabury, a 30-plus year prion disease specialist and a wildlife biologist. Everybody needs to watch this, all right? Because I just don't want our CWD response plan to be what Wisconsin's was, where they just wipe out thousands of deer in an area that's infected, because what that does is it takes out the genetic resistant deer that are there, meaning the deer that may get CWD, but it doesn't kill them, and they pass those genes along, and it kind of just makes everything less an issue. Just watch that video. He'll explain a lot of stuff. It's pretty interesting, and you'll learn something. So that's my response to the CWD response plan, and I'll leave it at that. I got in a little bit more in a rabbit hole on the podcast, so we'll just leave it at that before I get myself into trouble. So, no change to deer density goals statewide. They will be continued to be managed for under 15 deer per square mile. That's to protect the browse and reduce moose exposure to brainworm. We are not Illinois. We are not Ohio or Iowa. We do not have the feed in the soil capable of having more than 15 deer per square mile. 15 deer per square mile is a lot of deer. Most times you're looking at 7 to 9. But we need to keep it below that, and that will keep the balance in nature. Next, we're talking about bear, all right? This is basically this. We're just talking about numbers here. And I know numbers bore people, so I'll be quick about this. Bear. They want to decrease bear in the White Mountain region 35%. There's a lot of bear. And in the White Mountains, you can get 2 tags. So if you're hunting the White Mountains for bear, buy the 2 tags. Take 2 bears. Help it out. They want to increase bear in the Southwest 1 region, 14%. I believe the Southwest 1 region would be like Stoddard and down in that area. That's a lot of big country, a lot of big woods. So a 14% increase would not be a bad thing. But then again, they want to decrease the bear in the Southwest 2 region, which would be closer to Keene and where it's all built up. So they want to reduce that by 17%. And here's the big one, guys. They want to decrease bear in the Southeast region, Seacoast, by 66%. That's a lot. There's not a lot of bear there. So basically, they wouldn't be sad if there was like 1 bear in all of there, I think. And it makes sense because there's just too many people. And bears and people just don't mix very well, as we know. All right, so here's the last one, I think. Let's see. No, we have turkey too. So here's one. And this one here is where we start getting into the deep stuff. And I really appreciate what Henry's done here. All the negative things I've said about Henry in the past, I take back. I apologize. He was being held hostage by the old 10-year management plan. All right, they're not allowed. Once this 10-year management plan comes into play, they can't make big adjustments because it's written a certain way to keep the plan going to make it more consistent. So, but we've done some big things here with the moose. So I'm going to read this right off from here, all right? Moose, they're going to altering all moose density goals to reflect the current knowledge that less is more healthy, meaning less moose per square mile means healthier moose. Makes sense when you think that a moose needs to eat 50 to 60 pounds of browse per day to stay healthy. That's a lot. It's like an elephant eating themselves out of house and home. If you have too many moose in 1 square mile, there would be nothing left for anybody to eat. So, all regions will be reduced to under 1 moose per square mile at varying levels from low to high. So some of them are going to be less than 1, some of them are going to be 1. So that's how it's going to be. And I know there's going to be some people screaming and hollering, but if you want to see another moose die off and brainworm issues and tick deaths and everything else, that's on you. But I don't think that's a good way to go about it. So they're going to split the central section. So the central section hasn't had a moose tag in a few years now. And over here, I'm in the west central section. There's moose. There's moose. There's plenty of moose. There's a breeding population. It's enough to hunt. East of 93, it's not so good over that way in the central. So what they are going to do is they're going to split the central section to central west and central east. The habitat is so different between the two. There's more built up, I believe, in the east than it is over here. There's just no place. It's just not as good moose habitat there as it is here. We're higher in elevation. We have more open country. It's just better in the west for the moose. They're going to change the hunting possibility to any unit with population in the top 75% of the range objective. So once again, you have central cut in two. The east central probably won't have a moose tag. West central probably will because of the moose density. That's how they're going to do it. So it's a 75%. When you go on there, you'll see they have a chart, and it has the goal, and then it has a green line above and below, and that's their buffer zone, and it has to be above that line for there to be a moose tag. So you go on there, you go to this 10-year game management plan and check all that stuff out. I'm just reading what I got here. I'm not getting too detailed into it as much as I can, so you guys can go and read the exact figures and everything and get all the information you need. Here's the other big one. They're going to add an archery only season to the moose tags. All right? And it's going to be in the Connecticut Lakes and the northern region of the state. And it'll be, if I remember correctly, it'll be from the 1st to the 7th of October. And it will be the 25% of the tags issued will be for those, if I remember correctly what we saw at the meeting, because we went to the meeting. So 25% of the tags will be for the archery. If the proposal goes through, remember, these are proposals. These aren't rules. They're not dyed in the wool yet. And I got to keep saying that because repetition is how you learn. All right. They're going to continue to monitor the moose via trail cameras and hunter surveys. All right. So the trail camera plan, trail cameras is run by UNH, I believe, is what they were saying. So UNH will have trail cameras out to get moose count, and they'll go by those hunter surveys that you get during deer season. Make sure you fill those out. Fill them out honestly. Don't lie on them. Don't say you've seen something just to be the big man that I saw 25 deer today. You saw one deer, write one. If you saw a moose, put it in. If you didn't, and try to identify it as either a bull, moose, cow, or calf. They're going to monitor the moose body condition by visual, by them being actually in the field and looking at the moose, and with weight-wise on moose when they're killed and they come into the check-in station. They're going to do tick counts. They're going to track and document non-hunting moose deaths, and they're going to start a pilot program to monitor for brainworm. That would be from pretty much brainworm is a problem from the White Mountains south. So they're going to do that to kind of get a handle on the areas it's happening, why it's happening, and everything else. All right, so that covers moose. There's some pretty big stuff in there. So lastly, last and not least, the turkey. What they're going to do basically with the turkey, there's not a lot needs to be changed because turkeys are managed a little different than everything else. But what they're going to do is they're going to reevaluate how kill per square mile is calculated by only counting the first bird to enable them to adjust the fall season and better understand second bird units, which is really important because we are right next to the Sullivan County area, and that's a 2-bird unit in I believe that's what H1. And even though they get the highest bird kills there quite often, and there's a 2-bird area, by counting only the first bird, they're going to allow some of those jakes to actually hold over and become toms. And it's actually going to show whether or not they should continue to be a 2-bird zone in any of the 2-bird zones, because you've heard complaints in a lot of these 2-bird zones that everybody flocks to them and there's not a lot of turkeys, even though they've continued because of the 10-year plan. So that said, that's about it. one more time, I'm going to flip back here. I'm going to read the email one more time because I need you guys to send in your comments to this. Go to the Fish and Game page, read this proposal in its entirety, not just my ramblings, and email them with your comments. But please, 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 when you end it positively. These guys really do work extremely hard to try to help our wild game for both us and the public in all manners, whether they're game birds, big game, non-game species. They're really doing a huge job, and they're doing it for us. So once again, I would like you to send your comments to comments@wildlife.nh.gov. One more time, comments@wildlife.nh.gov. All right, guys, I know it was boring, 20 minutes or whatever, 25 minutes, but thanks for sticking with me. And please go right to Fish and Game after you read the 10-year big game management plan. All right? We'll talk to you later.